the gist of it is that 1111, or 11, just the number in general, is a portal number. So when this number appears, or when this pattern appears, knowledge or this synchronicity between you and the universe can occur, where knowledge can flow into you and stuff. Or, like some people like to say, when you see 1111, people say, make a wish, I don't know if you guys have heard that, but it's because if you make a wish, or you make a prayer or something in your head, there's a possibility it might come true, because 1111 is connecting you to a bigger consciousness, or maybe the collective consciousness, or the grid, or whatever. 1111, or just 11, can be seen as a portal number to people in like secret societies and stuff, and there was 9/11, and so it seems like 9/11 plus these two towers, which symbolize an 11, were knocked down on an important day, 9/11 or 11, because of this whole event that changed the course of history. They did something with this symbolization of these two towers being taken down on this sacred day or whatever. So they fucked with knowledge in a way. Or in a way, it's good symbolism for them controlling knowledge. There's this day where maybe we could have opened ourselves up or stepped further into this fourth D consciousness, but it was taken from us because whoever is controlling the system did this, what maybe some people would think of as like a satanic ritual or something to keep us from moving forward. And then you also have Stranger Things, where there's this child named 11, and again, this child can go in between places. She can go into this upside down, as they call it, this underworld, this place between places. Well, I would think of as the ether or the Force. And she's connected to the Force because, she does like Jedi Force kind of shit, even though it's not that kind of show. They're still kind of symbolizing that she's connecting to some kind of energy that flows through everything, that's in between everything. And her having the name 11 just symbolizes, it's that portal number. So, another random story that I enjoy. There's this dude, his name's, Stefano something. He's on Gaia. He's this Argentinian kid. He seems like a kid still, because he's very, very old-souled, but, like, young-spirited. Like, he has this way, like, aura about him I can't explain, but he's a very, very cool guy. He's probably my age. I'm like 30, 31. And since November 11th, 2011, 11/11/11, he said that he's been on a mission. He's Indigo, and we'll get into Indigo shit later. And on that day, he was doing like a lecture or something at a college, or, he was in college at that time, and in the middle of his little speech thing, he just went blank. He just, boom. But it was 11/11, time-wise, and it was 11/11/11, and I guess at this time, he was connected to an entity or a higher dimensional being that gave him all this information and this mission. His mission was to go around the world and open up all the chakra points and kind of get everyone's consciousness going. And he got his mission on that day. He was downloaded, and he went on after that. After that, that's what he did. He went to the chakra point in Argentina, and then went around the world and opened up all these other chakras and got all these huge gatherings going and stuff. He's interesting. He knows his past lives from Atlantis times and shit. He's talked about being on other planets too in past lives. So shit like that, take with a grain of salt, but still, it's very, very interesting. And where I'm going with this whole 11/11 thing too is that day, on 11/11/11, I remember it specifically, I also kind of got my mission. I didn't realize that at the time, not till I kind of learned about all this shit. But I do remember that day specifically, because I was moved out by that point. I was living in a party house or whatever, partying up. I had no rhyme or reason for even living at that point. Like, I was just a lost soul. And on CNN, I remember we were getting stoned watching the news, and there's UFOs. They were showing these UFOs. I remember it was in November of 2011. We were watching these UFOs. There's one above China that was really crazy and kind of made it so the airports nearby had to shut down. They didn't feel like the airspace was safe. I'm like, that's fucking crazy. Then there was this floating orb that was above Israel or Jerusalem, like exactly where Jesus had been hung on a cross, and this orb sat there and then shot off, and it was seen by lots of people. That was, to me, was fucking crazy. And then there's another one in Norway around the same time, but they were showing all these UFO sightings on this day in November, and I just remember being the only one in the room thinking, like, this shit's fucking crazy. I need to go research this. I need to figure out what this phenomenon is. And I immediately started going down a rabbit hole that day or whatever, and I haven't gotten really out of the rabbit hole since. It's been almost 11 years since I've been looking into that shit. I guess 12 years, it's 2023, but yeah, man, I haven't stopped. And my mission, I always felt like, was to be a teacher, mainly a philosophy professor. That's what I wanted to be growing up. Besides wanting to be a Marine and stuff, I wanted to be a professor that taught philosophy, and I always felt like now that's my mission. My mission is not so much philosophy, but to teach things. I used to be even a martial arts teacher at one point, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I like teaching people things and being able to help and give them insight on the things that maybe they don't know. Same within dispensaries. You know, I love talking about weed, and I have all this information on weed that you're not going to hear from other bud tenders. I don't give a shit about teaching you anything or like giving you any knowledge. They just want to sell the shit. I want to talk about it. I want to find out like what the fuck is going on with this stuff, like life and history and weed and all that shit. All these different things, they all are connected in a way. Weed in general, kind of random, but it kind of opened my mind too to a lot of this stuff. I wasn't as closed-minded because this herb, this flower, it gave me a different perspective and perception on life to the point where I didn't want to be in the Marines anymore. I realized the government uses the Marines for their, their own needs and stuff, and we go into countries that we don't need to be going into and stuff, and gave me a different perspective on wanting to seek knowledge and shit. Like, I wanted to learn, not the shit you learn in school, but our real history, real knowledge. So here I am, still trying to spit some weird shit, and hopefully you guys learn a little bit something here and there, but, So if you see the number 1111, make sure you make a wish, because who knows, Put that energy out there, those thoughts out there, maybe something will happen. It'll get something going. But speaking of numbers like that, I've been seeing spirit numbers for quite a while. They started once I was tripping hardcore on shrooms. Psychedelic mushrooms really opened up my mind as well. And it opened up my mind to the point where I think I opened something like this little gateway into a different realm, because then I started seeing these numbers all the time. Started off with 222. And 222 is kind of an indigo number. It shows that you've started your mission, or that you're on a course of a mission now. And I saw that after a really major mushroom trip. Saw it everywhere, like for a long time, and it was weird because around that exact same time, shortly after I started seeing it, Flatbush Zombies put out a song called 222, and they were talking about indigo shit. Like, it blew me away. It made me feel so connected, like I was actually on the right path of things. And while we're on the topic of indigo is a theory, or indigo children is a theory where there's all these old souls from like Atlantis times that have come back, kind of in the early 90s. And that generation was supposed to kind of kick open the door, or kick down the door, I guess I should say, because we're supposed to bring down the system, to change the system. We're the rebels of these old souls, and now there's even older souls, or even more, lighter souls, these rainbow and crystal generations, where We're seeing a lot of autism, Asperger's, and ADHD, but really it's just because they're different. Even soul-wise, they're different. We're actually getting chromosomes added too. A lot of people don't realize that indigos are supposed to take on a lot of new chromosomes. We're not exactly hitting that standard of new chromosomes like some people have predicted because of this material world, these foods that we're eating, a lot of this shit that is in our waters and like the fluoride and all that stuff. It's closing up our pineal glands. It's closing up this window for these old souls to flourish. So they're not getting these new chromosomes like they're supposed to be. They might get 1 or 2 new chromosomes, but they're not getting the 6 or whatever that we're supposed to be at right now. Evolution is getting slowed down slightly because of the control system. So anyways, indigos are supposed to be these rebellious souls that bring in the new age. A lot of them, unfortunately, feel lost and confused because this world isn't meant for these new souls, like these autistic kids, ADHD kids, ADD kids. So we get distracted. We get in the drugs, shit like that, and get sucked into this material world. But some of these indigos, like I said, that Stefano guy or whatever his name is, he actually is opening up chakra points in the world. He is uniting people and stuff. There are indigos that are on a mission. So, anyways, these numbers, these spirit numbers, are a way that maybe spirit guides are communicating with us, specifically indigos, people like old souls that are a little bit more connected to the universe or the ether. And so, mushroom trips, I don't know what it does, but it makes me feel like possibly on a fourth dimensional way of thinking or perception or whatever, because they're enhancing something in our brain that's connecting us to something that we've lost a long time ago. Then after another major mushroom trip, and I'm talking like, 14 grams, like a half ounce of mushrooms, after these major kind of trips, I start seeing other numbers. So the next one I started seeing 17. I saw 17 everywhere. And then eventually I saw 23. And the 17 one was actually interesting because I would see 717 a lot. And that's a very special number. But anyways, after another major shroom trip, started seeing 23, and literally I would see 23 fucking everywhere. And then after another shroom trip that was like a weird one, I actually had a semi-bad trip. I was very panicky. I just had a single thought in my head that made me feel guilty for tripping at that point, and that guilt kind of fucked it up. And I tried like taking a shower to get rid of the high, and that just intensified it, and I started having like a panic attack and shit. But once I settled down, I actually got out of the shower soaking wet. I couldn't even dry off. I just was so panicky I had to go straight to my bed. So I like all wet and in a towel went to my bed and like cuddled up, and I think it was Empire Strikes Back was on, and it was where Yoda was telling Luke to get the X-Wing out of the swamp and shit, and it was dope. That was the only cool part of the trip, was seeing Yoda like rippling in like almost a tie-dye kind of color fashion. It was very, very interesting, but the trip itself was not good. I kept thinking I was seeing something pace back and forth outside my door too, because the hallway light was on, and my cats were in my room, like all my animals and stuff were secure, so I don't know what the fuck was pacing outside my door, but there was clearly like a shadow being, or just my mind was fucking with me, I don't know, but that freaked me out a lot and stuff too. It was just a negative place that I was tripping at too. That place was not a good place to trip. It was kind of a forced trip. It was after I got done with work. If I take shrooms off of a whim, like I'm just like get home from a hard day's work and I got to work the next day or something, I take shrooms, I'm usually going to have a bad trip because a part of me just wants to go to sleep. And you can't go to sleep on shrooms, so then it ends up being a bad trip. Anyways, even though that trip was wacky, I saw 32 the next day and haven't stopped seeing it since. It's been like almost 4 years probably that I've been seeing 32 nonstop, and I've tripped a lot since seeing that number. I've mainly microdosed, though. I've had one major trip where, again, I kind of didn't have the best trip. It was a weird trip. And yeah, the number hasn't changed. I still see 32 just absolutely everywhere. I keep thinking maybe 33 will be the next number because I do see 33 once in a while now. And I had a psychic, I guess, friend of mine tell me a while ago that I'm probably seeing 32 because there's 33 numbers in the Masonic Templar thing. So, like, when Masons level up, I guess you could call it, they start, 1, 2, 3. They have these levels of knowledge, basically, that they're going up, and 33 is the highest point of knowledge. Like, you're a 33 Mason, that means you've accomplished everything, basically. To me, you never fully, especially as a human, never fully accomplish everything because, there's so much knowledge out there we'll never learn as humans. But anyways, 33 is that number, that special number among secret societies and shit. So she thinks, and another buddy of mine think that I'm just one step away. I see 32 all the time because I'm just a step away from that 33. There's still something I'm missing in life, though. There's still something I need to work on and shit, which I have a good idea of what it is, and I'm working on the stuff. So hopefully after another good trip or two, I will start seeing 33, and we'll be at that point of knowledge that gives me more insight of how the world works. So, anyways, there's another thing that's happened along with the numbers. Around the time I was seeing 222 and all that shit, it sounds crazy, but I started getting like a calling from Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta is a very large random mountain in California. It's kind of an ancient volcano too, and we're going to get into Mount Shasta super hardcore here in a second, but that was another thing. Felt like something was calling me there. And I had a buddy that was getting called there a few years before I started getting the call. And it's not like a telephone call, obviously. It's like a mental, like, I need to go there. I need this, like, adventure there. I need to live there or something. Like, it's this weird feeling that you have. And I got super into Mount Shasta, started looking up all sorts of shit on it. And my buddy who got called there a few years before me and started getting really into Mount Shasta, he was telling me that he had buddies that, like, tripped on, I think, mushrooms around Mount Shasta. And they would see these little gnomes or these dwarves, like, peeking at them around trees and shit. So, a lot of weird shit about Mount Shasta. Like I said, we're going to get into it right now.